Morning, everybody. It's an honour to be hosting this next session on innovation in infrastructure. Just a few words for why I think this is innovation is so important. So over the now many years that I've been working in rail safety, my preferred definition of safety is the dynamic avoidance of unwanted events. And for me, the key word there is dynamic, because everything is constantly changing. I think when you're thinking about safety, and particularly maybe the way that the railways have worked, certainly in the past, you plan your activity, and then you risk assess that activity, and you put your risk controls in place, and you think, great, there's an unwanted event right there. And you put your risk controls in place and you think, great, that's done, I've done safety, let's get on with my activity, my rail service or whatever. But in the meantime, even as soon as you've established those risk controls, everything around that activity changes. The weather changes, what your customers want changes, what the public expect and demand changes, their acceptance of the level of safety changes. And of course, your sources of funding, your revenues, the level of funding is constantly changing. And that's even before we get to acts of God like swarms of locusts, which was incredible. And so that means your risk assessment and your risk controls, you have to be dynamic, you have to constantly change, and you have to innovate and be ambitious about innovating. But something we're very focused on in the UK at the moment is if you want to successfully introduce new technologies, you must establish trust in the public. The public must not only, your innovation must not only be safe, the public must feel that it's safe. Because if you don't have that public trust, they won't accept it. They won't accept it as taxpayers and they won't accept it as customers. So if we want to introduce new technologies and new ways of doing things, it must be safe and be seen to be safe. And so I hope through these presentations we're going to find out a bit about how we are bringing that ambition and innovation, but how we are also ensuring that it's safe. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, CF Chan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chen. I come from Hong Kong, and I'm the head of railway safety regulators in Hong Kong. So before I move on to the innovation topics, let me introduce ourselves a bit about what we are doing and what we are regulating. In Hong Kong, there are many railway transport, and 4 of them are under my jurisdiction. The major one, which carry approximately 5 million people per day. 5 million people per day is MTR. And another one that I'm going to talk a bit further later on is the tramways. Tramways is the world's only remaining double-decker tram in the world, which is not for tourism, but actually for commutation. But it only carries 200,000 per day. And the third one, if you travel to Hong Kong, the first one, rail transport you take is the automated people mover in the airport. Finally, it's a scenic tours peak tram. When you visit Hong Kong, try to go to the peak, and this is the funicular, which can carry you all the way to the top. And we are not just doing a regulator job. We partner very closely with our regulators. As I mentioned, I have 4 regulators. We have regular meetings, but not just for finger pointing, not just for investigation of incident, but we do meet regularly to innovate, to explore INT solutions. What can be done? What government can help, can facilitate to do better? And here is the geographical location of these 4 transport. If you arrive Hong Kong by plane, on the that part is the airport, where you can take the automated people mover to the terminal, and you can take the train immediately, metro system, into the town center. And on the Hong Kong Island side, we have I mentioned over 150 years old double-deck tramways, which I'll introduce a little bit more what we have done to innovate the safety features of that tramway. And the small one here is the peak tram where you can rise all the way up to the peak to see the beautiful scenery of Hong Kong. And in middle, that one, the orange one, is the latest railway we built in Hong Kong. It opened in 2018. We only built 26 kilometers, but it connects to a 42,000 kilometers high-speed rail network to mainland. So after the pandemic, it became the most popular cross-border transport. We moved at least 100,000 people per day using a high-speed rail. And previously, when we tried to move back to Guangzhou, which is some 150 kilometers from Hong Kong, it takes 3 hours by vehicle, 2 hours by train. Now it's reduced to 47 minutes by high-speed train. And why I'm talking about innovation repeatedly is because 6 years ago, when the then chief executive, want every regulators, not just railway. If you are regulating health and safety, you're regulating food safety, we need to take on an additional role to be a facilitator. What is facilitator means is you did not just when something happens, you take the punishment. You try to work with your regulator to do something preventive. You facilitate by what? By innovation. We want to introduce different way of doing things so that we can avoid accident before it happens. And how are we going to do that? I have to introduce a bit further my department. I work in the Electrical Mechanical Service Department. It's the ordinary department in Hong Kong. But apart from regulator, we also we have 5,000 to 6,000 people providing service to all the government facilities in Hong Kong. The airports, the border control, the police, the security, every government facility we provide service. So we have a very big playing field that we enable people who have innovative ideas to try their device, to try their ideas in the facility that we are maintaining. So starting from, I think it's 4 years ago, we have a E&M portal. It is, if you think about what it does is it's like a speed dating online apps. When our client, our facility users, they have troubles, they want to do something different, we use this platform to invite academics, innovation companies, not just Hong Kong, but Greater Bay Areas, and also around the world. And we do the matching. If they match, sometimes we even provide the money and provide the venue for them to carry out the innovative trials in our sites. And you can see, it also includes railway facilities, not just the place we manage, but also the place where we regulate our regulatees. And 4 years on, we have built up 440 wishes, which means most of them come from troubles. For example, if you have a repeated incident and your current maintenance method cannot work, we go into that. But there are other exemptions. For example, we also maintain the prison in Hong Kong. And prison is a place where prisoner commit suicide frequently. So there's a project 2 years ago where we built something to monitor the activities of prisoners to prevent them from killing themselves. And from those 440 wishes, we received over 1,000 matching requests, but only we put into trial 180s. And within that 440, 36 of them are railway related. And within that 180s project completed or put in place, 14 of them is railway related. And I talk about funding. Since the chief executive has this idea, the then CE, she provides us annual fundings so that as a regulator, although we don't manage, we don't operate railway, but we have the money to put on trials. So sometimes we get funding from the central government. Sometimes our department provide money for a trial. And to get some incentive to our regulators, we go partner with them. And when the trial is mature, we even finance the whole application process to international invention award. For example, there's a very famous Invention Geneva Award, which held annually in April. And this year, railway-related projects, we obtained 5 awards, and including a special award. And later on, I will show you one of the examples that we get the award. And also, innovation nowadays, I think you have heard about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is only one that you can easily access with AI, but with innovation and technology, you cannot go without AI. So our department is trying to build up an AI platform so that we can apply AI readily to any innovation projects we want. So we are building a standard, and we're trying to host AI competitions to encourage not just those companies, but university students and everyone around the world. So this is the platform I'm mentioning. So we are just in the beginning. We're trying to, because in the demonstration, you see, we maintain escalator. We maintain thousands of lifts. We maintain air conditioning, power supply to government facilities. So we have lots of chance to use AI in our projects to enhance the reliability, to enhance safety of this system. So we are building an AI platform so that anyone, if you have a problem, you can use this platform to engage the AI to help you to improve the service. And now I'm going to talk about one of the examples that we've been doing in the past 4 years. So since 2017, we received the order. We start working on projects 4 years ago. Now, this 4 years down, we have completed and implementing 14 projects. And I'm going to talk about one of them, and it is number 11. And the 13, 14, we are just on the pipeline of inviting matching with innovating companies to do so. But that 11 is already completed, and you get the special award in this year, Invention Geneva Award. It is a LiDAR system which mount on an existing tramway, which run along the northern coast of Hong Kong Island. I mentioned it only carries 200,000 people per day. Its maximum speed is 40 kilometers, but normally we share road with other users, so it's 22 or 25 kilometers average speed, so very slow. But we have a lot of tapping incident with other vehicles, and in the past 4 years, we have 2 times where very small objects stuck in the tracks and let the tram derail. This is the geographic location. It is a 30-kilometer long route of this big tram, double-decker tram, running very slowly along the north. And apart from carrying that 100,000 people, many tourists actually take it as a place to see the Hong Kong scenery. So we did have an incident, and not just train colliding with other vehicles, but train colliding with tram. And also, we have a privacy problem. If you use video, and it took the faces of passengers and people around the tram, is a problem. So we try to use LiDAR instead of video. And with this system, we are able to detect small objects stuck in the track 60 meters ahead of us. So we have pretty much enough time for the drivers to stop it. It is not an automatic stopping system. It's just give the alert to the tram driver that something is stuck on the track, and something in front of you, you're not reducing the speed, and they give you an alert. And we install it on a wheel train, and it runs every day in Hong Kong Island. And this is a test we carry out. Firstly, we do the test on depot. Now it's running daily on the traffic. And apart from detecting small object track in the track, it also alerts the driver to avoid collision. And as I mentioned, it has a very good accuracy, and it provides another sort of alert to avoid incidents. The theme of this conference is a very good one. It's that reshaping the railway in this uncertain world. But it didn't mention who did it. After seeing the things today and what we experienced in early September, I think Mother Nature is reshaping our railway now. New challenges in Hong Kong. In 9th of September, we have some region in Hong Kong have 800 millimeter rainfall in one day, which is nearly 3 years rainfall. So you can imagine what happened to our railway system. This is, you can see the newspaper, and we have a movie. This is not a scenery. It is one of the subway stations. The water flowing from the mountain actually totally flooded the shopping mall nearby the station. The B1, B2 of that shopping mall is totally flooded, and the water come up again and then flood the nearby MTR station. So at that day, we stopped the service, but thanks to the super operator MTR, we managed to open the station the other day. So it's amazing. And you can see the depth of water. In the middle, you can see 6. They are five. They are actually fire service department divers who are helping to remove the debris from the flooding system, the drainage system. And it's flood to these heights. It's very dangerous. But MTR managed to resume this system, this station the other day. Very good. The next challenge, apart from what I mentioned about normal spare driver behavior, equipment failure, railway incident, now we are facing a different enemy. It's Mother Nature. So the next challenge we have to do is climate change. The rainfall I mentioned, 800 millimeter, according to Hong Kong Observatory, it is 1 in 500 years. But I can assure you, whenever people saying 1 in 100 years, 1 in 500 years, it will come in the next 5 years again. That is you divide it by 100 and you come again. So in Hong Kong, we are facing super typhoon. Number 10, we have to stop everything. Number 12 is catastrophic. So catastrophic flooding, typhoon, rainfall, I think it will come repeatedly and more frequently in the next few years. So we are using, again, INT solutions, new procedures, and repeated drill exercise. Fortunately, for that rainfall on the 9th of September, MTR, we have 18 months drilling exercise prepared for that. Because apart from rain, we do have 4 cross-harbor tunnel. And that harbor tunnel may have someday cracks and water flood in. And if the gates cannot close good enough, we have serious flooding like this in our station. So in the past 18 months, we have been doing drilling exercise with MTR. The very purpose of that drill is not to have floodboard, not to check the pump, is to evacuate. How quick you can evacuate the whole station. So in the past 18 months, we complete drill exercise for all the 99 MTR stations in Hong Kong. And with that experience, on the 9th of September, there's no casualty. Even the flooding to this level, there's no casualty, and people evacuate in a matter of minutes of the station. So in conclusion, MTR opened the first line 45 years ago, so it became the middle age of an infrastructure. We have to do something, otherwise we'll get into more trouble. And we are, EMST as a government department, we are committed to try more INT solutions with our regulatory, with what we are doing in maintaining government facilities, and we'll keep on doing it. We keep on take the lead to work closely with our regulators to try INT projects. One figure I haven't shown you, in the past 4 years, we have completed 14, or we're doing 14 projects. In the beginning, we outrun MTR, but nowadays, MTR have over 25 projects completed. So it's a matter of chicken and egg process. If no one start, no one can work. So we start, MTR follow, and now they outrun us. So we want MTR and us to collaborate further, to work with our new enemy, the Mother Nature. And apart from the regulator, the operator, as a regulator, we also trying everything we need to do to be a smart regulator. We are starting to use AI for incident prediction based on MTR past incident. We're starting to use blockchain for submissions of new station, because in some cases, the submissions have to be read by different parties, and there's new things which should not be happening in the drawings, but was added there. With blockchain, no one can change after it is confirmed. So thank you for your attention.
Good morning still, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a privilege for me to be with you today, to speak to our South African colleagues, but also to address the international delegates from all over the world here. We are really proud as the University of Pretoria to be involved with rail safety, and we thank the railway safety regulator especially for their support in the work that we do at the university currently. So my presentation today is titled Technological Advancements and Digital Mapping for a Safer Rail Network. And I will talk about some of the developments that we've spent our time on during the last couple of years, and then also show you how we use that to make the network safer. The next slide is the one where, if you are sensitive, you should look away, because it contains animal-train collisions. So just as a background to what we are talking about. This is a reality. Some statistics have been shown this morning, but I can assure you this happens quite frequent in South Africa on a number of railway lines that goes through areas where we have wildlife. So this really gave us the opportunity to look a little bit deeper into how do we map our infrastructure, how do we get to know the infrastructure, and how do we develop technologies to prevent this from happening. So in my presentation today, this is what I want to focus on. So I will start with how do we digitalize the railway industry? What is the role of smart infrastructure and track components? Then I'll move on to condition monitoring and mapping. And there I want to focus on a number of aspects that we are using currently. And these would include track geometry, vehicle dynamics, high-definition video, light detection and ranging, LiDAR, and then also UAV orthographic mapping. Then I'll move on to some applications, and I will specifically look into a case study that we've carried out on a railway line, and then we will look at derailment investigations just before I conclude. So if we think about what is a digital railway, we need to define this, because it's one of those buzzwords that everybody used. And we sat down and we put together a couple of basic concepts to define what we understand under the term digital. And the first one there is decision making. We want the technologies that we develop to enable us to make better decisions. We don't want the technologies to come up with the decisions, but we want it as an aid. Then we need interactivity. We need to be able to interact with the infrastructure. We want to interact with sensors, get feedback, and that interaction is very important. Connectivity is, of course, key here. So if I take my cell phone now, I'm able to tell you what the track deflection was of the very last Gautrain that passed a certain section on the network in Gauteng, probably 10 or 15 minutes ago. And it is that connectivity that gives us a lot of power in terms of our decision making. Then innovation and technology, those two things run together and is of course key to what we do. Automation. We want these sensors and the technologies that we develop to be able to track, to detect the presence of trains or animals, whatever it be, and this needs to be automated. It needs to happen in real time without user intervention. And then the last one is this whole linking of people, ideas, systems, things. This is the Internet of Things, and that's what we want to do. So if we then just take a look at smart infrastructure, smart is also one of those concepts that we need to define. And if we look at the definitions there, we again see that this has all to do with decision making. And then there's a couple of concepts that are really key, and that is data, analytics, feedback, and adaptability. And in the technologies that we've developed, you will see that, that these aspects are core. So just to give one example, years ago I worked at the railways, and we had some very complex technologies that accumulated pages and pages and gigabytes of data. And we thought it's very smart, but nobody used it. Nobody plotted it and drew a trend and used that for decision making. So although that was very nice and very sophisticated, it wasn't smart at all. So we need to be very careful here. We can have some simple technologies that if we use them correctly, they become smart, and that is what we define. So smart monitoring, we believe, should be the backbone of maintenance and infrastructure management. If we cannot measure, we cannot manage it. So it's important. The wonderful thing that we see nowadays is that there's this absolute growth, exponential, in optics, sensors, communication protocols, machine learning, AI. These technologies become more affordable every day. And the students that we encounter at the university, they are keen to use these technologies. There's also a shift away from small, very expensive instruments to affordable instruments that you can buy off the shelf, and you can buy 100 and sacrifice 10. Without losing a lot of money. So what we can do is we can really move away from these very high-tech, expensive equipment to cheap sensors that you can replicate on a network, and you can put one every kilometer and easy sacrifice one or two, just replace them and then carry on. Good. So how do we leverage on these capabilities? What we've done at the university is a couple of years ago, we've acquired a road rail vehicle, and this vehicle, of course, can travel on track, it can travel on road, and we've equipped it with instrumentation that allows us to develop the instrumentation that we need. One part of it is a track geometry trolley, so there you can see the crab trolley, and it's not only important for us to measure track geometry, but as we develop new systems, we can also calibrate it, because this is really an absolute geometry measurement. So in most of our other projects, we are using this. One of the projects that we've been doing is to move from optics to track geometry. So one of our PhD students during COVID took thousands of photos of the track that we had and then compiled a digital model of that. So if you look there on the right-hand side, I think you will see if this works now. If you look at that image, I can ask you which one is the real track and which is the model. And you will find it difficult. But on the right-hand side, you see the photos, and on the left-hand side, that's the digital model. So if we have these models, we can do training, and we can do machine learning applications to develop these technologies. So part of this project, for instance, we took a custom-built trolley, pushed it along the track, and then we recorded these images of the rail. Then that was put through a neural network, and that then produced an accurate 3D reconstruction of the track. And from that, we can then derive track geometry, and we build our other models on top of that. This was called spooroog and spoorpyp. That's the track eye and a track pipeline for reducing the data. Good. Now I want to take you to just a case study we did. This is the Olifants River, named after elephant, because this is in the northeastern part of the country. It's part of Greater Kruger, which is an unfenced area with wildlife crossing the railway line, a beautiful area, and we had the opportunity with the permission of Transnet Freight Rail and then also the Baluli Game Reserve to carry out the research. At the end of my presentation, I want to talk a little bit about training also. Of course, that's very important for us coming from a university, but we had the opportunity to spend some time there with students. So some of the methodologies that we use there is what you see there on the track is a small device. We call it Clippy, a small stone, but it was developed as a smart ballast stone, and it can measure accelerations in 3 directions, also rotations, temperature, and also some magnetic flux. And this is then installed on a bridge or wherever you want, and it gathers data. It's triggered automatically, and we can get a lot of information from the track, whether it's on a bridge or in a tunnel, in the ballast, on a rail. Very useful. So that's a smart track component that we can use. We then also used our road rail vehicle, and in this case we installed a couple of instruments on it. So the list includes the crab, the track geometry. Then we also had LiDAR for 3D point clouds. We had a very precise GPS geolocation with millimeter accuracy. Then just normal video recording with a GoPro. And then we had also a dynamic inertial measurement unit on it, which then measures the accelerations and the vehicle response. This specific one is OXTS from Oxford University. That gives us high-frequency, precise vehicle response measurements. What we then did is we took machine learning algorithms, and then we tested this hypothesis. Can we derive track geometry from vehicle response? Now, there's a couple of algorithms that are listed there. The multilinear regression one worked the best. And just to give you a quick sense for it, so we compile correlation matrices where we plot the geometry and the vehicle response on axis, and then we look for correlations. And the yellow and the dark purple ones, those are the ones with good correlation. So in this specific case, you can see looking for correlation with cant and then also alignment. And in the end, you can actually predict what your alignment or cant would be from the vehicle response measurements without having anything on the track. And in this case, there's some correlations between the actual alignment and then also the regressions that we did. For some reason, those regressions are not visible on this specific screen, but they are there, and they are very close. You'll have to take my word for that. Another application that we did was to look at, can we use the LiDAR derive ballast profile, because what we discovered is that there's a distinct variation between ballast profile and the places where animals cross the track. So in those images, you can see some animal paths crossing the track, and with a LiDAR, it is very easy to detect that variation. So we programmed some algorithms that can predict and detect these crossing points. In a previous presentation from Transnet, Cynthia showed some of the mitigation measures to prevent animals from crossing the track or warn them, etc. In this study, we specifically looked at links between the topography and crossing points, because there are clearly some hot spots. And this will then enable you to go and isolate these locations and then put warning devices, alarms, speed restrictions, and all those type of mitigation measures at specific locations. In addition to the LiDAR, we also use UIVs, and we use different platforms for it. One of it would be a drone. Another one would be an electronic dog. We call it Smoof. And for those who are visiting Winelands on the technical tour on Thursday, you will see Smoof in action. So there we have a robot that can move on a derailment site where there's an incident without contaminating the area. So that makes it very valuable and enables us to do investigations, amongst others. This is a LiDAR scan. So here you can see a piece of railway line. This is on the Gautrain network. And this specific model was acquired in 10-15 minutes with a LiDAR scanner. So we have a very accurate 3D point cloud that we can then use as part of our mapping. LiDAR has its advantages, but we also are looking at photogrammetry. And with photogrammetry, we can get away with much smaller drones. And that then enables us to put together 3D orthographic maps. So on this specific railway line, I have two examples here that was obtained by putting together just photos. So you can see on the left-hand side, there's a cutting, and then on the right-hand side, there's an embankment. And this enables us then to derive slopes, cutting depths, embankment heights, those type of things, all stitched together, photos stitched together, and then we have these models. Another application, of course, with UAVs or the drones would be derailment investigations. And this is not part only of investigations, but also for training for us. So this is something that we are using in our training. So with the drone, we can take photos again, and we can put together a 3D model of this derailment scene, post the event or shortly after it. And one can use it for investigations, of course, but you can also use it for training. So what we have at the University of Pretoria is a 360-degree cylinder. And we can take students in there with 3D goggles, and then we can project an incident like this on a screen, and we can take them through the training, look at certain aspects, and that becomes very valuable for us. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm coming to the end of my presentation, and I just want to leave you with a last thought. I've talked about a lot of technologies and advancements, innovations. The interesting observation for us has been that as technologies developed and as we become more digital, the need for human skills and human training and for upskilling our human capital has increased dramatically and exponentially. So we've placed a very high emphasis on people's skills and training. So for that reason, we have developed with TITA and SAQA, the Qualifications Authority in South Africa, and the RSR, a qualification, and my colleague, Dr. Willem Sprong, who will talk later on, has been at the forefront of this development, and that will be an official qualification for railway safety inspectors, a 2-year program that will take them through all of these steps, take them through the training, and would also involve some work-based experience, in the end, qualifying them as rail safety inspectors. So I trust that, that this presentation and the technologies and the applications, all culminating in a training program, gives you a sense of what we are doing with the kind sponsorship of the RSR and our other industry collaborators. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me okay. It's a great pleasure to be here at IRSC in Cape Town, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and present to you some information about the Channel Tunnel Safety Authority and also a specific project that we assessed over the last 5 or 6 years, actually. Firstly, my name's Steve Demetrio. I am a member of the UK delegation of the Safety Authority. It's a binational committee, so we work very closely with our French colleagues, some representatives from EPSF who are with us this week. I'm the Fire and Rescue Advisor for the UK delegation of the Safety Authority, and I've been on the authority for the last 12 years. And prior to that, I was an operational firefighter and spent 30 years in the Fire and Rescue Service in the UK. So I've seen safety in the Channel Tunnel from different perspectives. The presentation today, I'm going to give a short background about the Channel Tunnel and some of the safety issues that are currently present. And I'm also going to talk about a specific project that we assessed as the Safety Authority, which was the installation of a high voltage interconnector within the running tunnel. And it's the first time that project has been, that interconnector has been installed in a live rail running tunnel. So a bit of information about the Channel Tunnel itself. As you can see from the map, it's a vital link between the UK and Europe. And some stats really about the tunnel itself. It's 50 kilometres long, 38 kilometres of that undersea, so it's the longest undersea underwater tunnel in the world. It used to be the longest tunnel in the world when it was installed. It's now third, so things have moved on a bit. Since 1994, approximately 500 million people have passed through the Channel Tunnel between the UK and France, and 100 million vehicles. It accounts for 25% of the trade between UK and Europe. Nostalgic picture, opened for business in 1994. It was opened by Her Majesty the Queen and President Mitterrand. The tunnel itself is operated by Eurotunnel, so they are the concessionaires, as we term them, and they operate it under lease until 2086. The tunnels itself, I could say tunnels, there are 3 tunnels. There are 2 rail tunnels, Running Tunnel North, which operates from UK to France, and Running Tunnel South from France to the UK. And a central tunnel we term the service tunnel, which for the emergency response side, which we'll talk about shortly, that is the key area of operations. Between the tunnels, there are cross passages roughly every 375 metres, and there are also piston relief ducts to equalise the pressure between the 2 rail tunnels as well. The running tunnels take various types of rolling stock. There are high-speed passenger trains. There is also a passenger shuttle where people can drive their cars or vehicles onto and travel across between the UK and France. There are also HGV shuttles, which take a lot of the road freight, and there are also rail freight trains that operate through the tunnels as well. I'm going to mention, I've only got a little way through the presentation before I've had to mention the B word, Brexit. And so, some of you will be aware of the difficulties around that and others won't. But essentially, when we look at assessing safety in the Channel Tunnel prior to the B word, actually it was fairly straightforward. We had a single safety authority for the Channel Tunnel, which operated in conjunction with the national safety authorities for France and for the UK. Since the B word, we now have this very complex situation where, in essence, EPSF, as the French safety authority, are the national safety authority for the French section of the tunnel. And on the UK side, it is currently the Intergovernmental Commission, which is advised by the Channel Tunnel Safety Authority. And that is actually binational. So we have a rather strange situation where for the UK section of the tunnel, it's a binational committee that is the National Safety Authority for the UK section. So if you're not confused yet, then I'll just stop there. So for us as the regulators and for the duty holders, this is quite a complex scenario. But it will change again next year and will become much simpler, we understand. But I won't talk about that just yet. Previous incidents in the Channel Tunnel, of interest, when the tunnel first opened in '94, the risk assessment said that there would be a fire in the tunnel every 50 years. So to date, we've had 5 serious incidents since the tunnel opened in '94. So there in itself is a bit of a case study about difficulties around results and risk assessments. I won't go into detail about the various incidents that have occurred, other than to say for the 2008 fire, which I'm very familiar with as I was the UK commander for the response to this incident. In fact, it took place on the 11th of September 2008. The early information was that potentially this was an anniversary terrorist attack because there were reports of explosions. In actual fact, it was a fault within one of the HGVs that was travelling on the shuttle. But it resulted in some devastating effects underground. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. There were some passengers from the HGV shuttle taken to hospital for minor injuries. But it resulted in about 650 metres of the tunnel being damaged. The tunnel, one of the tunnels was shut for 5 months. The firefighting operations lasted for just under 24 hours, in fact. And there were approximately 400 firefighters from the UK and France that were sent to deal with the incident. And for those situations underground, there are some key challenges, really, for the services. There are a number of scenarios where fighting fires presents its greatest risks. And fighting a fire in a tunnel is probably right up there as one of the biggest risk incidents. You can see from the top image there, they are the scenes within the service tunnel. It's quite a cramped environment. When you're dealing with an incident that is essentially 20 kilometres from land, getting additional resources and teams and people there is very, very difficult. There's limited access, communications are difficult, and very, very arduous conditions within the tunnel where the fire is, as you can see from the slide, from the image below. So in that context, we moved into a situation where we received proposals for the installation of a high voltage interconnector within the rail tunnel. So as you can imagine, our first reaction was that we really need to consider this very, very closely because of some of the safety implications. I'll show you a short video, which is a promotional video from Electlink and from Eurotunnel, just to give you an overview of the project itself. So the project itself was designed in 4 phases. The first phase was to look at the design and construction of the works modules, the trains, that would be used to install the infrastructure and the cable in the tunnel. Secondly, to look at the installation of all the engineering features and the brackets that would hold the cable. Thirdly, the installation of the cable or cables itself. And lastly, the energisation phase. So, in essence, the project would link the 2 national grids of the UK and of France. In the past, and we have a number of interconnectors that already serve that purpose, but they are laid on the seabed. So, again, the installation is fairly straightforward in that respect. So, for the tunnel itself, a number of factors were considered within the design. You will see that the bottom image on the left shows the installation of the cable itself sitting at about 10 o'clock on the running tunnel north. That's the one that goes between the UK and France. So it's fairly high up in its installation. The project was split into various lots, and so there were various experts and organisations that came in to manage different parts of the installation itself. Looking at the profile of the running tunnel, as you can see, there's already quite a lot of infrastructure within the tunnel itself. So the companies that were involved proposed an installation at 10 o'clock on the running tunnel north. You can see the profile of a train running through the tunnel. So actually, there's not a lot of clearance between the running of a train and where the cables are due to be installed. It sits on the left-hand side as you run through the tunnel, which is where the maintenance walkway is, and it was deliberately positioned there away from the emergency walkway, which is actually on the right-hand side of the tunnel. This is an image showing one of the works modules in use and the installation of the various brackets and also the engineering works that were used to house the hanging of the cables through the tunnel itself. So how do we organise ourselves when we were thinking about how we're going to manage the technical assessment of this project? The first thing that we had to consider very early was the resourcing of this particular project. So in terms of the UK, who would we need to be involved in this particular part of the assessment? Various stakeholders on the UK side, specialists from within the Office of Rail and Road, electrical specialists, emergency services, Department of Transport colleagues, and the like. We also needed to consider resourcing around the administration and the collection of information, and that's something that I'll talk a bit about when we come to the debriefing process. We anticipated that we were going to receive a number of really heavy technical documents, and we needed to have some good IT tools and good administration about how those documents were received. And also the complications of how we would pass information between the UK and the French assessors to make sure that we had good communication between the two and good means of actually sharing thoughts and assessments about this particular project. In terms of specialists that we would need, we engaged very early with a number of esteemed specialists in the areas of electrical safety and health and safety management. So on the UK side, we engaged with the Office of Nuclear Regulation, DSTL, a government department, scientific department who specialise in electrical explosions, and also some other consultants that were able to actually provide us with assistance, bearing in mind that this was a unique project and had never been assessed before, the installation of an interconnector in a live rail tunnel. The French authorities also engaged their own external experts, and we were able to share that information between the two binational authorities. So the binational coordination, which is absolutely key to providing at the end of this project a binational position on the safety assessment. It's difficult to put into words how much effort and resource needs to go in to make sure that that binational operation works effectively. Communication at meetings, the use of interpreters, the use of translators to translate very specific documents is really key. At the end of this, during the project, we instigated the use of an issues log. We raised a total of 264 queries or points of clarification, some more important than others, in terms of the safety assessment for the project. The key areas that we focused on, energy release from faults. So whether that's a fire, just a fault in the cable, it has the potential for releasing a large amount of energy in the terms of fireball, but also pressure waves within the tunnel. So that was a key focus. Electromagnetic compatibility. Clearly, with the installation of this type of device, that has the potential to interfere with rail safety systems or systems interfering with the cable itself. So we needed to make sure that we could assess any information provided by the project team. We also focused heavily on the risk assessment methodology that was used. We wanted to ensure, as far as we could, that all of the features or safety risks were designed out at the earliest stage possible. And that's trying to ensure that clearly we had different health and safety regimes between European health and safety, UK legal requirements as well. We needed to make sure that all of those were observed. Fire safety, we mentioned a key risk for the Channel Tunnel. There were a number of investigation reports, a number of assessment reports looking at how fire would interact with the cable and what the effect of the additional fire loading would be in the tunnel itself. And there were also other emergency scenarios which we assessed, including derailment. So what would happen should a train derail and strike the cable? What would happen in terms of any energy that was released from the cable, or also any electrocution risk to passengers that happen to be involved in the incident, or emergency workers that would attend post the incident. In terms of conclusions from the project itself, we first started to debate this in 2011. We set up working group in 2016. We eventually authorised the installation and operation of the cable in 2012. So as you can see, the time that it took to actually assess this was quite extensive. We carried out a debrief process to try and identify key learning points, and I'm sure we would be happy to share any information from that debrief process to those that are interested. But essentially, we assessed that a number of the steps that we took were very critical to the success of the assessment, including that early sight, an early view of what resources we would need, early engagement with the duty holders. We undertook a number of working group meetings with the duty holders and specialists to fully understand the project that was being presented, so that when we came to assess it, we had a much clearer view of what we needed to look at specifically. And in terms of numbers, a number of key figures there which 750 million euros, which was the funding for the project, 102,000 metres of bespoke cable, 8,500 brackets, 520 technical safety dossiers, 264 safety issues, 132 binational project meetings, 32 experts reports to assess, 2 governments making a joint decision, and 1 binational team working together. And as I say, there's no other examples of this type of project that currently exist, but I'm sure there will be others that will come very soon. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair, and I'm not nervous. So with the prospect of a safe operation in mind, how to aim for driver-only, and driverless operation considering real workplace conditions? JR East has announced to introduce a driver-only operation system on some lines in the Tokyo metropolitan area from 2025 to 2030. The driver-only, by that they mean no conductor, but only the driver will be on the train. Driver-only operations are rather common on JR regional lines. Some private railways in the Tokyo metropolitan area are also implementing such operations, but this is the very first time for JR lines in Tokyo. 5 lines, the Yamanote line, the Keihin Tohoku Negishi line, the Nambu line, the Yokohama line, and the Joban line were selected for introducing driver-only operation. At the press conference, President Yuji Fukasawa revealed that these routes were selected based on a location with the highest transportation volume in the Tokyo metropolitan areas. So to implement driver-only operation, JR East will improve station equipment such as platform doors, modify the rolling stock necessary for driver-only operations, and introduce ATO, automatic train operation system. In addition, JR East will proceed with construction such as attaching a monitor and a microphone to the driver's cab and installing a camera on the platform to confirm the passengers getting on and off. Driver-only operation in the Tokyo metropolitan area is already carried out on the Tokyo Metro Fukutoshin line, Namboku line, Tokyo Meguro line, etc., and it has been demonstrated that it's possible to implement it in congested routes if the equipment is well prepared. Therefore, JR allows driver-only operation for up to 15 car trains. In addition, JR East has also announced that they will aim for driverless driving in the future. By the way, driverless driving refers to a form in which a crew member who does not have a driver's license accompanies the vehicle without a driver. Since the driving itself is done by the system, it can be called a kind of unmanned driving, but there is a crew member in the cab, so the train is not totally unmanned. According to the international standard IEC 62267, the automatic railway operation stage GOA is divided into 4 stages, and our driver-only operation, which has already been put into practical use, corresponds to GOA 2. The next stage is GOA 3, driverless operation, and GOA 4 will be completely unmanned operation without a crew member. JR East is aiming for driverless GOA 3 as the next stage of a driver-only operation. However, there are big technical hurdles between a driver-only operation and a driverless, and we don't think it will be that easy to overcome. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, we call it MLIT, has been studying an autonomous driving of railways as a study group of autonomous driving technology for railways. Look at the 2020 summary. You can see the outline of the technical issues. In addition to the previous classification, the summary introduces the concept of GOA 2.5 as a form in which a crew member, other than the driver who will perform the emergency stop operation, has to be on the driver's cab. ATO will check the departure time, operation, and stop positioning. And ATC will check the signal at the time of departure. Speed control while driving is handled by ATC and ATO together. A movable platform fence, platform door, is required for opening and closing the train doors, and for getting on and off. Conversely, it can be said that autonomous driving cannot be realized without ATO, ATC, and platform doors. So JR East has indicated a policy to expand the introduction of ATACS, Radio Train Control System, which is an evolved form of ATO and ATC. Furthermore, efforts are being made to realize driverless operation on the Shinkansen line. From October to November 2021, a total of 11 running tests in which out-of-service trains were operated unmanned completely between Niigata Station and the Niigata Shinkansen Rolling Stock Center. And at the time, an E7 series train with a temporary ATO install was used. Then the major issue in driverless railway operation is dealing with emergencies, ensuring safety on the train track, guiding passengers to evacuation, handling operations after an emergency stop, etc. So the summary calls for various considerations for them. What is required to ensure safety on train track is isolation from the surrounding environment. For example, to prevent entry into the railroad tracks, it is necessary to install additional anti-intrusion fences and protective fences for automobiles. In addition, it is necessary to build a cargo fall protection fence to prevent goods from falling, and a track intrusion protective plate on the track near the railroad crossings. Railroad crossings are the most important. For example, a railroad crossings where large vehicles use often requires a two-step barriers device and an overhang type alarm device. We are also considering the introduction of a railroad crossing obstacle detection device that detects when a car is parked on the railroad crossings, and the device that stops a train if the bar is not lowered. Furthermore, it is also necessary to develop and evaluate sensor technology to deal with obstacles in front of the train. JR East seems to be considering the Yamanote Line as a first candidate for introducing driverless driving. The last railroad crossing on that line is expected to be abolished in about 10 years, which clears major crossing issues. In the past, JR East also experimented with autonomous driving on the Yamanote Line. So there's no doubt that in the future, they are aiming for driverless driving even on routes with railroad crossings. The MLIT's review materials also aim to introduce driverless operation to routes with railroad crossings. So by 2030, after driver-only operation is realized on the Yamanote Line and the Keihin-Tohoku Line, the development of driverless operation is likely to be considered on each line. But it is also true that there are many issues that must be resolved first. Labor saving in the railway industry is important, but at this stage it is not possible to predict how far unmanned trains will be realized. At such an uncertain stage still, there are events that threaten the safety in our workplaces. As a challenge for responding to irregularities and emergencies in driverless driving, it is necessary to accumulate human education and training, continue to pass on experience, knowledge, technology, and skills, and to develop a traffic environment in which all concerned parties are united. I will raise the importance of such by sharing 3 examples. Case 1. This is an incident occurred on May 23rd. The Kia E195 series railcar, which is a 2-car train, caused a shunting malfunction in the track inside Ofuna station, and the system judged that there was no train on the line. It had been reported that this malfunction occurred often when a short train like 1 or 2 cars passes on the track not frequently used, and especially on rainy days. But we were so surprised at the company's explaining that there were 130 similar incidents between October 2020 and March 2023. Now back to the Kia E185, a passenger train was running immediately after it. But this time, the Kia was running all the way, so it was safe. But if the Kia had stopped for whatever reason, and the shunting malfunction just like this occurred, the following passenger train could have collided. Some are worried. So it is true that train operations are managed by the system. However, no matter how much the system has evolved, such incidents and signal troubles have occurred already many times. So it is necessary to continue accumulating education and training of people so that they can respond appropriately when failure or irregular events occur, and to pass on experience, knowledge, technology, and skills. We would argue that this is extremely important for the safety of railways. Case 2. A major issue in driverless railway operation is dealing with emergencies. Ensuring safety on a train track, guiding passengers to evacuation, handling operations after an emergency stop, etc. What is required to ensure safety on train track is isolation from the surrounding environment. The most important issues are the introduction of a railroad crossing obstacle detection device that detects when a car is in the railroad crossing, and the device that stops the train if the barrier is not lowered. Furthermore, it is also important to develop and evaluate sensor technology to deal with obstacles in front of the train. I would like to introduce an event that specifically made me think about it. On August 26, 2021, at the Tokyo Paralympics Athletes Village, Toyota's self-driving EV, electric vehicle, e-Pilot, collided with a visually impaired Japanese judo athlete who was trying to cross the crosswalk at the intersection. 4 days later, Toyota announced that the status of the accident and the measures to prevent recurrence. When the vehicle was turning right, entering the intersection, it detected a person in the intersection and stopped. Then the operator confirmed the safety and restarted the vehicle. The operator checked the situation around the intersection and manually slowed down. The sensor detected the pedestrian crossing the road and activated the automatic brakes, and the operator also activated the emergency brake. But the vehicle still collided with the pedestrian before it came to a complete stop. Toyota announced measures to prevent recurrence. 1, increase the volume of the warning sound by manually accelerating or decelerating and stopping. 2, increase the number of staff on the vehicle. And 3, increase the number of guides at the intersections from 6 people to 20 plus people. And the task was divided into those in charge of vehicles and those in charge of pedestrians. Also, the Tokyo Organizing Committee of Olympics and Paralympics Games announced a strive for familiarizing people with the rules and working environment of the athletes' village. Furthermore, ensuring safety at the intersections without traffic lights cannot be ensured by pedestrians, operators, or guides alone. At the Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association's press conference held online on September 9, 2021, Chairman Akio Toyoda, the president of Toyota, said that the responsibility does not belong to either the vehicle, the pedestrian, or the guide. There was a problem with the system. I think it is difficult to ensure the safety of level 3 or higher automated driving on the private roads by just responding to the vehicle. As Toyota said, we were reminded of the need to improve the traffic environment with all concerned parties working together. Efforts to ensure safety is a more severe road environment should also be applied to level 3 and higher automated driving on general roads. There is no doubt that JR East is aiming for driverless driving even on routes with railroad crossings in the future. By 2030, after driver-only operation is realized on the Yamanote Line and the Keihin-Tohoku Line, the development of driverless operation is likely to be considered on each line. But it is also true that there are many issues that must be resolved first. Based on incidents occurred on trains in recent years, it is not possible at this stage to foresee the extent to which discussions on safety in trains and drivers driving can be realized. But we must proceed the discussion from a safety perspective and actual workplace situation. So case 3, so next it is necessary to drivers driving to review the detection of obstacles that were considered unexpected and the way evacuation guidance should be conducted. Here is an event that made me think about this. At around 9:24 p.m. on August 5th, a train collided with a tilted electrified pole on the Tokaido line, damaging the driver's cab and cabin. There were 3 passengers and 1 driver injured. This time, minor injuries were made, but it was a serious accident that could have cost lives. Based on this incident, even if our facilities are strengthened and the level crossings will be reduced, there may always be unexpected obstacles. And since collisions with fallen trees have been increasing due to the intensification of natural disasters, we feel that camera sensor technologies that can detect the fallen trees is also necessary to protect the lives of crew and passengers. In addition, at the same time, another 12 trains in the vicinities were stranded. It was a tropical night, and the air conditioning was unavailable due to power outage. So some passengers were trapped in the train for hours, experiencing heat stroke-like symptoms, and eventually affected as many as 150,000 passengers evacuated by working on the tracks. In the case of drivers driving, only 1 crew member has to take care of thousands of passengers, which is not possible with the existing systems. So it is essential to install, say, ladder for disembarking that can be easily installed by 1 crew member. It is also crucial to build the system that help team can rescue the train from along the railway line. And there should be an emergency battery installed that can drive slowly to the nearest station, even during the power outage, so that it's not necessary for the passengers to get off the train other than the one involved in accident in the first place. This time, out of the 12, some trains were equipped with emergency batteries, but they could not make effective use because other trains were not loaded with emergency batteries, and they could not run it on their own. Therefore, it is necessary to install it in all trains. As such, in implementing driverless driving, we believe that it is necessary to establish a prompt passenger relief method that takes into account the intensification of natural disasters and rising temperatures due to global warming, especially with regard to evacuation guidance. In conclusion, we have raised some issues, and what we are particularly aware of is that the driver, who is the last line of defense for safety, is no longer the last line of defense. Furthermore, technology and skills have become a mere shell, and the adverse effects of technological evolution are also emerging. One of the major reasons for this is that the integration of the management center and the sales management center being promoted without considering actual situation of the workplace and the reality of the workplace. Train drivers used to be a specialist in train operation, but now they're aiming to become generalists who can handle everything from station operations to event planning, in addition to train operation. And both train operation and event planning work are presented on the same line. As a result, there have been cases of crew checking their tablet devices because they were so worried about other tasks or extra tasks while they were actually operating the trains. To prevent accident, we will be self-reliant and self-disciplined, thoroughly implementing the basic actions and cultivating over the 150 years history of railways, and making sure to report incident promptly and correctly. That's how we have created a culture of safety. Unfortunately, the culture is crumbling now. I would like to end my presentation by saying that we are working together to re-establish our safety. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Jen just reminded us that I'm the last speaker before lunch, so I try not to overrun. This morning, in the keynote speech by the minister, we heard about, she frequently mentioned sustainability and a range of other associated topics. Railway has been around for 200 years or so, and we make steady progress from steam to high-speed rail in 1964 in Japan, and maglev in more recent years. And what next? To move forward, to be sustainable, we are facing some of these big issues on the screen. Climate change, my colleague, Mr. Chan, mentioned that is our common enemies, and you will not know that it is a big issue until you have seen it, and until your home city has faced the impact of some of these Mother Nature's forces that hit you. And social expectation is always increasing, and we need to address what the people need rather than what we need. Aging populations, and there are fewer births, and we are all getting older. More and more older people are continuing working, so the populations in the world is shifting. So some of these are issues that we need to look at. Climate change. Let's look at climate change and a few more examples. In July, according to the World Meteorology's Office, it was the hottest July on record. And tropical storms, and the top right is the one that hit Hong Kong just 1 week before the torrential rain that you saw in the earlier example Mr. Chen showed you. And the one on the right bottom, left bottom here is also another photo of the incident on the 9th of September. Major fires across the world in many places, many countries, Canada, Europe, and just to name a few. So we've seen this, and Mr. Chen's presentations. These are the recoveries and the incidents, how we managed to, MTR helped manage to restore the service just the next day. Sustainability. This is the official definitions from the UN. Meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So what it means. And UN also gave us some example. They set up 17 goals related to sustainability. And I'm not going to go through the 17 goals, but I have tried to digest the 70 goals and condense it into 4 aspects here. Connectivity, saving and conservation, reliable and safe, inclusive and diversity. So I'm going to cover a little bit more on these 4 areas. Connectivities. Just looking at the figures on the length of metros, these figures are from UITP, and you can see in the last 10 years there is some marked increase in the Asia Pacific and some more moderate increase in other areas of the world. And on high-speed rail, you can see the increase in the length of their structures is 2.9 times increase over the last 10 years. So I can say that in terms of connectivity, we are definitely more connected than 10 years before. And saving and conservation, transportation sectors from on the CO2 emissions point of view accounts for 22.9% by sector, from the total emissions of CO2. But if you look at it, in terms of railway, it's only count for 1% of the CO2 that in the transportation sector. So we are doing very good, actually, and we should promote more people using railways. And on the right side, you can also take a look at in the transport sector, I break down it to small, medium car and railways and air in terms of passenger kilometers. So railway is really at the bottom in terms of carbon footprint. So we should promote more. Now, even though that much of our railways are now electrified, the electricity still has to come from the power stations, and that is a source of carbon emissions. And we should try to make sure that our railway system can be operated much more energy efficient and lower carbon emissions. And also, we should use more renewable energies in our electricity generation. And next, I'm sure all of you have heard about hydrogen will be the next a big gun. Are we ready, actually? Are we ready, do we have enough legislations? Do we know how to conduct risk assessment sufficiently? Do we have enough infrastructures to support it in the future? So how ready are we on this? So this is kind of things that we need to look at more closely in the coming years. Look, moving on to reliable and safe, 99.9% of passenger journeys on time. I think majority of people will say this is very good. And actually, this is the performance of our colleagues, MTR, in Hong Kong. So well done. But what about the 0.1%? And the photos you see is the result of the incidents that happened arising from that 0.1%. And many of these people will not be getting to the office on time in the morning, so that's unfortunate. So we are really looking at the 0.1%. They are the high consequence, low frequency. It does not happen all the time, but when it happens, it gives you a lot of problems. So we should put more efforts into finding ways to address these issues that we can hopefully further minimize the chance of some of these incidents happening, to raise it perhaps to 99.99, maybe. So the 0.1%, what are we talking about? We try to do something about it. On the left side of the screen, if you can see that it is, there's a construction site next to an operating line. One of the busiest, actually, I live near there. I use that railway line every day. So the construction site is actually doing some demolition work. Okay, it's right next to a rail operating line. So we cannot afford to have some falling construction materials onto the track at any time. So what we try to do is that we put some CCTV technologies with AI capability that to spot any falling objects from the construction site. Clearly, we cannot put someone there just to look at the construction site 24 hours 7 to make sure there's nothing falling over. So we have to rely on technologies. So this is an example that we use to detect any falling object. It's been very useful. And on the right side, you can see that it is an MTR train. And we also tried to put in a pilot project to look at the structure integrity of the railway tunnels. As you see any sporing, water seepage, hopefully that before anything that will deteriorate too significantly, we hope to identify them before it happens. So what I just said is that we really need to move forward to use more technologies rather than following on the conventional labor-led maintenance regime. Now this is another example. In Hong Kong, our operating lines operate from 5:30 in the morning till about 1 o'clock. And the actual maintenance window is 2 hours, maybe just over 2.5 hours to get ready. So we call it the golden 2 hours. It's really tight. You have to put in possessions and you have to do the work, then you have to put the line back into service. So it's not much time to do the actual work. So we are working with MTR, and we hope to, MTR is putting some of these new technologies in place hopefully to improve the maintenance window in the evening. That some example is that remote switching of the power line to make sure the possession is safe, and the remote possessions indicator lights. So these are done remotely, because otherwise sometimes staff will have to take up to half an hour or even longer to set up the site possession. Then that reduce the amount of actual working time that available to do meaningful maintenance or replacement work. We heard from the floor today that smart maintenance relies on a lot of data and information, and it gives you insight for you to make decisions. We actually did a simple benchmarking with the aviation industry recently. And the aviation industry has been known to use a lot of their data from the plane, from the engines, from the cockpits, so that they use what they call the reliability center maintenance. So they try to make sure that the plane is reliable as much as possible, so it doesn't fall off the sky. But for railway, if something fails, we stop. So it's totally different regime. So it helps that whether it is RCM or which is predictive maintenance, and we have talked about this over the last few years already, and today, that we are really moving into that direction to improve our reliability and safety. And with RCM and predictive maintenance, other than you try to prevent, to do something before something goes wrong, and it can also help you to optimize your maintenance regimes, because a lot of the times, our maintenance follow a fixed maintenance program, and it's not flexible. But sometimes some of the equipment does not actually fail within that regime, or does not fail at all. So we can optimize more with RCM or AI or predictive maintenance. The more we share, the more we have. Mr. Chan mentioned, my colleague mentioned how we work with our regulators to promote collaborations. And collaboration is not just between regulators and not regulators. We are here to promote sharing. So any regulators and regulators or operators, I think we can all follow these principles that we share what we know, even not just lesson learned from incidents, but technologies that we have been applying, and the results and the benefits, and I think we should do more on this aspect. As a matter of fact, the Australian ONSA colleagues and the French colleagues that we have been exchanging regularly, and UK as well in the last few months, they have helped me tremendously in a lot of aspects, and thank you. I want to thank them. Inclusion and diversity. We talked about this morning about affordability, and whether we should be building something or operating something that the customers, the passengers cannot afford, okay? And we actually, and also a lot of the times the incidents don't happen on the train, they happen on the station. In Hong Kong, it's a big problem. We have many incidents each year that people, especially older people, that they trip, they fall, and they trip on escalators, and they need a lot of help. So we need to do a lot more, not just on the rail system, the force system, but actually on operation as well, to minimize the occurrence of incidents involving injuries. And you can see some of these are helping to improve the service. Okay, and you can see that, and we also have problems of passengers carrying big luggages to stations and trying to get to the platform. And when they go on stairs and they go on the escalators, accident happen, so they get injured. So we want to try to avoid some of these through technologies. And if you look at the bottom left corner here is a LiDAR system. We hope that that can identify the passenger carrying big luggages, and we give them a warning, ask them to go to move from not using the escalator, but instead they use the lift, so that to minimize the chance of them, tripping over or hitting somebody other passengers using the escalators. So overseas examples, that's an example from Japan, and we be more inclusive. In Hong Kong, we promote tourism. We have many overseas visitors, and language is a barrier sometimes. So that's an example I picked up. I'm sure that our Japanese colleague here know that it's the instantaneous translation. You speak on one side in your language, and they respond from the language, so you can read it. It's very clever. So, we should be more people-centric. So that's what I want to say is that in our operation, in our station operation, not just focusing on train system. Now I talk about connectivity, safety, saving, and inclusive. And to be sustainable, this is what Hong Kong we are trying to achieve in our railway system, especially in our newer railway system. If you look at it, these are some of the newer projects that we have on the pipelines, and we've been advised by our senior government officials that for all these new projects, we must have a smart element in them. We must have the green element in them. For this new transit system. And these, if you look at this, these are the actual new connections to the mainland across the border of Hong Kong, okay? And Hong Kong is part of China. So we have already got many, 3 or 4 border crossing, but we want to increase more because of economic development and people moving. People are now moving a lot more towards what we call the Greater Bay Area around Hong Kong, and that's a national strategies to make that area into a strategic development. So on the right side is some new railways, the red ones, so you can see, and these are what we want to do in terms of sustainability, connectivity, smart. And on the right side, Mr. Chen mentioned that in China, mainland China, our high-speed railway has been developing with some quite remarkable progress. In 2023, and we are transforming into 2030, you can see the development we want to achieve from a grid of 4x4 to a grid of 8x8. And Mr. Chan mentioned earlier that the length of the high-speed rail is already at 42,000 kilometers. And we are hoping by the end of 2030, it will reach 45,000 kilometers in the next few years. And with that, and we hope that in Hong Kong and our living circle, 1 hour living circle will be, within the Greater Bay Area is 1 hour living circle is what we want to achieve. That is our aim and our aspiration in our Hong Kong perspective, the sustainable development of our railway system. Okay, and this sums up what I just talked about. Social expectation, it drives that they demand a safer and sustainable and smarter railways. And we need to rely on innovation more. I'm not saying that the conventional methods are no longer valid, but still we need to have more innovation, and we also need action. It's action. It's not just innovation. We need to take actions. Okay, and at the end we have sustainable railway is connectivity, safety. I think some of the PowerPoint is messed up. It's inclusive and diversity. Okay, I'm very good in timing. Okay, thank you for the reminder. And And I just one more slide. Connectivity, safety, reliability, inclusive is what we do here, okay? Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. We're moving on to questions. You've probably already seen there is the ability to vote on questions. We've probably got more questions than time, 3 questions. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, I'm going to weed out the questions that sound like they have a really long answer. So please find the person who the question in the lunch break and get your question answered. So there's some interest, Hannes, for people to join the course for railway inspectors. Is there a possibility?
Yes, certainly. So it's a 2-year program, part-time, with about 5 to 7 weeks contact time, and the rest is work-based.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest. So the next question from Natalie. This Natalie? Yes. For Stephen. So what was the legal framework in place, and how did you come together? Sounds like there's a short answer and a long answer.
I'll go with the short answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. So legally there are European directives. There's also UK law that has to be complied with. I noticed Natalie was also asking about who chaired the project. The Intergovernmental Commission, which oversees safety within the Channel Tunnel, is chaired. It alternates each year between the UK and France. So there is a clear leader in terms of the decision making. But also, if you remember the slide, EPSF on the French side also have to give an authorisation for this particular project as well. So it's quite complex, but that's the long answer.
Well done. Yeah, find him in the lunch break. So the final question is for CF.
Yes.
It's from Gregory. Hi. So this question is about the importance of clear roles and responsibilities. And you talked a lot about having a partnership with the operators, but how did you make sure that they were still responsible for safety and you weren't assuming any of those responsibilities?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Actually, what we've been doing, 14 projects, we go there, we install the thing, we prove the concept. In most of the case, all the installed equipment was taken away after a trial period. And after that, it's up to MTR, the operator, to decide whether they want to put it in full scale and what time scale. And responsibility is clearly written in the law in Hong Kong, Chapter 556, Section 28. I don't need to read it out, so it remains the same. What we are going to do is we try to help as a catalyst of a combustion engines to make things move faster, but without disturbing the responsibility. Because installing all the equipment tests is no use for us. So in our tender, we try to minimize the cost. Everything they install, either they move it away or they sell it away. So the contractor finished the trial, we move all the things. So there's nothing left after we prove the concept. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. If you could all join me in thanking our presenters.